All right, so we are back. Before I gotta do a little housekeeping before we actually get into the conversation. Go figure. When I finally make it into the studio to record my first studio episode, there is another band in the other studio beside me, and the sound is leaking through. So I'm going to apologize up front. This has never happened to me coming here when recording music. Like I've been recording music here for a year now, and this has never happened. But for whatever reason today, whatever. Anyways, so there's a band playing music in the other studio right beside me. So I apologize. I can hear them pretty loud, but I'm hoping and praying, and I think it's not really leaking that much into the sound audio of this recording. So cross fingers, knock on wood. And yeah, so that's your PSA for the sound of this first episode. Anyway, so we're talking about body count. So I have a list here of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I believe, major points that I have meditated on, analyze, try to think critically on over the last year and a half. I'm not talking about just like yesterday, but I've been meditating on this subject for, as I said, at least a year and a half. And I have 3 major points as to why I've been able to distill it down as to why, on a intellectual level, men out there, and women for that matter, who are concern themselves with a female's body count, as a factor to decide whether or not to get involved with them on a serious level, because apparently that's another kind of side issue with it. Some people are like, yeah, the high body count thing, it's okay, but I'm okay with it, but I ain't marrying no one with a high body count, and that in itself is another issue. So, anyways, I've been thinking about this for a minute. I got 7 logical reasons and very practical reasons why I don't think this is a very relevant or sound way to approach the subject. And some of them are more compelling than others, I suppose. I have never shared these thoughts with another human on the planet, to be honest. So I'm actually kind of excited and intrigued and also nervous to hear what the response will be from other human beings, the general public, and you my listeners or viewers. But in a nutshell, let me just first start off by saying, of course, obviously, I am vehemently against the idea of judging a woman or discounting a woman for having a high body count, being in a relationship with them. That is my personal stance. Now, am I correct? Am I absolutely right in that? Having that point of view, I have no idea. We all have our individual lives that are colored by our own experiences, our past, our environment, that we currently are in, or past, all of that. But as for me, Henry Lyon, who has been a lifelong romantic, and if you don't believe me, you can go back to every other incarnation of myself over the last 30 years that I've been 30 or 40 years, 35 years actually, because I started doing music when I was 16. We're talking about the 90s, mid 90s, actually early 90s, because 1993 I was already in the studio getting paid to be a studio rapper. Yeah, that's a thing, or at least it was a big thing back then when all the rappers were getting marrying their talents to the R&B girls. Yeah, so it's been quite some time, and from day one I've been a romantic. You could check out my back catalog of music for the last 35 years. Shout out Carlos Morgan, Give It To You, the very first major single that I was on in I think it was 93, 97. What am I talking about? That song was called Give It To You. Ironically, that song was actually talking about sex, but that's a top subject for another day. Anyways, I'm straying from the topic. We're talking about body count, and as a lifelong romantic, you would think that I would be all for, like, yeah, a woman has to have a low body count if I'm gonna marry her, or but the thing is, just as much as I've been a lifelong romantic, even I've expressed that in my books. My last book, Hearts and Powers. Google that as well. Superhero romantic superhero series. Even as a romantic, the thing is, I've also been equally a very, very, very sexually liberated human being. From I was like 7, 8 years old, I've been like very sexually driven and mindset. I shouldn't say driven. Driven is not the right word, but I've been just very sexually free is what I mean. Like I think sex is a beautiful thing, and I put it right in par with love. Like they're both very amazing, magical. They're two of the most amazing, magical things us as human beings can experience while we're in this plane, in this level of existence, on this mortal plane of existence. And so because of that, because I value both of them equally, it actually turns out that my romanticism of life and my passion and my love for love doesn't get in the way of my thoughts of, being with someone with a high body count. In fact, because I put it so high, I'm like, live and let live, love and let love. So to that point, my very first point about why I believe caring about a woman's high body count is terrible for you anyways, because the only one losing out is yourself, is because love don't give a fuck. Like true love. I'm talking real love. I'm not talking about infatuation or, sometimes you meet somebody and you got like an immediate intense like electrical chemistry and sexual energy. That's not love. I'm talking about real love, like in the context of this conversation around this debate around high body count. A lot of the people are saying, a woman with a high body count is good enough to fuck, good enough to have fun with, friends with benefits, maybe a short-term, relationship, but I ain't married. I'm saying real love don't give a fuck. Because if you really are in love with someone, the last thing you're going to be concerned with is how many people they've slept with in the last time. Now, let me put this into another context. I've been single for 15 years now. My marriage ended in 2010, and we're now in 2025. And from pretty much day one of me ending that marriage, I've been like single as in not married. I've had relationships. Don't get it twisted. But for the lion's share of these past 15 years, again, me being a born hardcore romantic, I've just been on that mission looking for the mythical one. And from that perspective, I can honestly say I've been blessed to have and meet and be involved with a few women that I did fall in love with. If you want the story on those, you can check out my book, Operation Dream Girl, published in 2013. You can check out my latest EP / album. It was supposed to be an album, but it turned out to be an EP. We're gonna finish the album later, called Dare Ruby, which was just written and recorded and published. At least the independent low budget version of it was put out. You can check that out on Spotify, Apple Music. But what I'm trying to get at is that I put my heart and all my relationships and my love into all of my art, from my music to my books, and they are a reflection of what I've experienced in real life, and having gone through those experiences of really falling in love with someone deeply and understanding how hard, on the flip side of that, understanding how hard and difficult, damn near impossible almost sometimes, to find that person that you mesh with, you connect with. You are like, people like to use this term, my person. Do you know how hard it is to find your fucking person? Like someone who you get along with, who understands you, you understand them, and that is equally full of magic and passion on a sexual and a, energy wise, as much as it is filled with deep understanding and care, and like you would do anything for that person. You don't care about what they look like, how they, you are just like, do you know how hard it is? As I said, let me repeat it. 2010, 2025, 15 years, I have yet to lock down that person that is the one, okay? And I've come very damn near close with at least 2 now, for sure. Shout out Pearl, you know who you are. Shout out Ruby, you know who you are. But my point is, when you find that person, and if it's true love, I guarantee you, you won't give a fuck about their body count. You shouldn't even be asking that question in the first place. But if you, and if I would even go as far as to say, if you have time to ask that question, perhaps the question you should really be asking yourself is, am I truly in love with this person? Because the past is the past as far as I'm concerned, and we all have a past. Which brings me to my next point. As a man, any man out there, this idea of a woman having a high body count being wrong is ridiculously unethical as a man. So let me just clearly say the statement. Point number 2, why I believe the high body count issue with a woman is a terrible mindset to have, is because the male body count double standard is unethical in my opinion. As a human being, let me just read how I wrote it on my notes. Men expecting women to accept their high body count history makes it unethical to judge a woman with a high body count too. I say it like this to say that a lot of men who have an issue with marrying or wifing a woman who has a high body count, they themselves have a fucking high fucking body count. So why is it on a basic human level, why is it you would think as a human being on a logical level, it's okay to demand or expect this standard from a woman that they should have this, low, history of sexual history, and they should accept on the flip side that you have a high body count, and let's just accept, and it should just be accepted as normal and understood, and just like, no, I'm a man, so it's okay. That's what we do. That's what we're born to do. It's in our DNA. We're wired to sow our royal oats, or like, fuck all that caveman bullshit. Last time I checked, we in 2025. We not in like fucking medieval times. We not even in the fucking Neanderthal times. We not even in the 1800s or the early fucking 1900s, the 50s. Yo, bro. This idea that women are supposed to be held to this like puritanical, I heard that word just like a couple days ago, and I was like, yeah, that I'm going to use that word because that's what I've been thinking all this time, and I couldn't articulate it. But this puritanical mindset / a borderline oppressive mindset. By the way, I'm not like fuck the patriarchy. That's not me. So if you're thinking that, sorry to disappoint you, but I do understand some of the issues that people have with the patriarchy, and this is one of them that I align with and I agree with. That mindset that like men are supposed to like, it's okay for men to sow the royal oats and spend their youth pretty much just fucking everything that walks by, everything that has a skirt, and that's okay. But women are supposed to stay chaste and stay very, very, very reserved and very, 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 very selective about when and how often they give up the goods. I'm also, just on a side note, I'm also trying to like I'm slowly trying to get myself used to being my authentic self and doing a podcast where I'm 1000% free to actually like curse and speak truly the way like I feel. And the reality is, the way I feel in this moment on this topic, like a lot of cursing is gonna come out of my mouth if I truly do not edit myself or pause sometimes. Like every other word will be like fuck this and like shit and like so bear with me, folks. I'm trying to get my bearings because this is brand new territory for me. The podcast game and doing it in the studio and all that, this is comfortable. I'm good with that, but this is the first podcast in my entire life, and I've done many, at least half a dozen podcasts since I started trying to take advantage of this medium back in 2008 or 2007. 2008, sorry, I think is when I started to, no, what the fuck am I talking about? I started way before that. What the fuck am I talking about? Anyways, my point is, it's been a long time. I'm very comfortable with podcasts. However, with all the many podcasts that I have done, they have all been PG. This is the first time I'm like, fuck all of that. Fuck being like trying to appease the mainstream. Like, I'm on a mission and I'm serious about this mission. Like, for me, this is a life goal. So I don't have time to be pretty. I don't have time to be nice. Like, this issue demands, not just issue of body count specifically, but like all the issues I'm discussing and just the overall umbrella issue of being for the fucking girls, the modern girls in 2020, in the 2025 on this fucking planet. More specifically, the North America, because that's where I live and that's where I see most of this issue that's really bothering me. Like, I don't know if you guys can tell as I keep going off on these tangents, this is not just like a, you know, cool topic of the moment I picked because I want to get some eyeballs or some ears. I hope you guys can really feel like I am passionate about this topic. But passion is not even just the right word. Like, when I first watched a video in November 2023, my mental breakdown was on November 1st, 2023 at work. So the immediate response for the road to recovery was to just work on my spiritual side and my mental health. And on the practical side, like, I shut down life. Like, life was shut down. Not only was I not working, I wasn't doing anything creative. I wasn't doing nothing, literally nothing. Just lying in bed and just trying to heal and let the universe speak to me and find my way spiritually and Lord and to pass the time, and the only thing I really had the power to, the strength to do, is to just stretch my hand over to my night table with my laptop and just put on YouTube or Netflix. But back then, actually, I was spending a lot of time on YouTube for the first time, and just try to like watch things to, I don't know, just pass the time and find myself, to be honest. So during that period, November 2023, one of the very first videos that I watched was videos about this very topic, female body count. And what I saw and what I heard not only shocked me, but it made my blood fucking boil, bro. Because when I say that, like, just hearing men sitting there saying these crazy things, to me, they're just crazy. To me, the fact that they were even bringing it up as a subject, like what's a woman's body count, and asking a woman, you know, I think they do some of that, like, reporter on the street. They have a mic and they go up to women or men on the street and they ask them, what's your body count? And then they got the little gotcha moments and they say this or say that in, you know, they have this thing where they'd say that, like, oh, something about a lock and a key and the master lock and the key. So if you have a master lock as a man, which is your penis, apparently, then you're special and you can open any door. But a woman who is not a key, have a master key, but they have like their vagina, I guess, is like the door. I'm not doing the metaphor justice because I don't remember it exactly, and I've seen it many times since then, but it's just, for me, the metaphor, first of all, is kind of like, it's dumb because it's not a reflection of reality. It's like ego stroking, and it's just trying to feed into the caveman male psyche and the modern male psyche of ego that just doesn't want to let go of this idea that they are superior to women when it comes to sex, and that a woman can be sexually as free as men without having it be this big issue or negative thing that's going to affect life in any, you know, major negative way. So anyways, my point is, I have been having my blood boiling on this subject since November first week in November 20, maybe it was the second week, because I don't think that first week, trust me, man, like I was a wreck. Like I had given up on life. Like I couldn't even talk, literally. Like anyways, we'll talk about that another time. So since November 23, so I'm passionate about this. So that's my point number 2. It's a double standard that's ridiculous. Just as a human being, ask yourself, does it make sense? Would you ask another human being and hold them to a standard higher than the standard you hold yourself? And if you, in any other area of life, be it cooking, be it domestic, I can't even, the phrase is eluding me, but domestic bliss, schooling, work on the job, any other context when you're in relationship of any kind with another human being. There is no other context I can think of where you would think that is normal and it makes logical sense that you enter into a partnership with another human being and say, you are going to be held to this super high standard, but I am allowed to just be exact opposite. And you are expected to accept it, and it's okay. And if you ever dare to drop down, it's hell to pay. Fuck you. Have a nice life. I'm moving on. Like, there's no other relationship dynamic that you would do that. So why the fuck would you do that to a woman? It doesn't make sense to me. Moving on. Point number 3. Like, I have so many points here. So what I'm doing right now, I'm trying to go in order of least amount of notes and slowly get built. That way we don't have to spend we'll slowly get more deeper into the conversation. So the next one I have here, so this one is building on the same thing I just said about being unethical to ask someone from a man's perspective. The next point I have is that the standard is not only unethical, but second point is that the standard is illogical. Okay, men, I hope I have your attention. Logics. If you notice, I said from the beginning of this episode, I'm coming to you with logics and arguments that I've thought out and I've kind of like really logic, because as much as I'm for the fucking girls, my true mission is to reach men. So I want men, and if you are a man listening to this, I hope you will keep an open mind and hopefully resonate with some of what I say. And I'm also welcome to your feedback and your point of view. But because my point of view as a man is so rare, and even more to the point, publicly in the public domain, the opposite point of view is rampant, and it's so out there, so super saturated, and there's so many people, men out there preaching and apostatizing. I gotta keep it simple. There's just so many men out there just like railing against women having high body counts. Because it's so prevalent out there, I'm trying my best to be the first, if not the first, one of the very first, very public voices presenting the other side of the argument for women. But also more importantly, I'm trying to change the mindset of men in the public discourse to actually make a change, hopefully long term, in society. So based on that, as I said, I'm presenting these arguments from a logical perspective because I know that's how men are. And this third point is that caring about a woman's body count is ridiculous because the standard in itself is illogical. Let me read what I wrote. That's the easiest way to get it out. So, many men dream of marrying or wifing a woman who's a lady in the streets and a hoe in the sheets. I don't think I said that exactly right, but you get the gist. But the reality is, most women who are sexually free enough to be hoes in the sheets are usually women who already intrinsically by themselves value sex in their life, both when they are in a relationship and when they are single. Therefore, logically, during the many years before you meet this prospective woman that you want to have the balls to ask her what her body count is, or that you're hoping she's your what, lady in the sheets and hoe in the no, fuck, I can't remember. Fuck, you know what I'm trying to say. During the years when she's without you, obviously, most likely, she would have had an active sex life. Which means if you are committed to this idea of marrying this magical lady in the streets, but hoe in the sheets woman, then you need to also be prepared to accept the reality that most likely that woman, being with that woman, will come with the price in the form of her having a high body count. It's just logics. Expecting anything less is basically, as I wrote it, naive at best and totally delusional at fucking worst. Now, I wish to a certain degree that I had other people here with me on the podcast, and that is the ultimate goal for the show moving forward. But because I don't right now, I'll take this moment to do a little plug. Because Spotify has blessed us with this little feature where we can put out polls on our episodes of the podcast. So I'm going to be putting out a poll for this podcast regarding women with high body counts. And that will be your opportunity to give me feedback and interact with what I'm saying here on this first episode. But on this point of it being illogical, I think it's self-explanatory, but I just want to kind of just say it more from the heart now and a little bit more passion. So basically, it is naive at best and totally delusional at worst. It's illogical. If you go on to ask a woman to be a hoe in the sheets and be a lady in the streets, she got to have some hoe traits in her already. She got to have some sexually freeing mindset and a sexually free spirit. Like in my experience, I'm going to go back to my real life experience, 15 years out here, bro. I'm not some like, what do they call them? Fuck, I forget what they call them. Those guys, not simps. What is it? Those guys who just don't get no woman in their life. And if I'm gonna say it more bluntly, no pussy. And they just complain and they say women, just use them for their money for getting free dinners or whatever and bullshit. I'm not no little internet, guy sitting in his basement. Bro, my track record speaks for itself. Trust me when I say, in my experience, literally, sexually, the women who are willing to be sexually adventurous are by nature sexually adventurous. So by nature, it is almost impossible to expect a woman to just turn it on when you get with them. A woman needs to feel so let me put you this way. For those of you who are saying, well, my wife or my girlfriend was never like, she didn't have a high body count, and she's like, our sex life is amazing. She's like, bro, I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I'm not saying that it can't happen. What I'm saying is, from experience, most women who are sexually free either have already embodied and embraced that side of themselves and have already embraced that mindset of like, I don't give a fuck what society wants to say, I'm gonna do me. So they've already have that history. The ones who don't, it's only when they encounter a man and have a relationship with a man who they feel that safeness to be themselves and to truly be their authentic selves and let go of all the shit that goes on in their head, that society has put in their head, that keeps them from being sexually free. And in my experience, that doesn't happen a lot. It doesn't happen a lot because, unfortunately, men, we got to do better. I'm going to just say it. We have to do better. And from my conversations with the many, many women that I have dated from over the last 15 years, from the friends with benefits to the women that I fell in love with and had hardcore long-term relationships with, to the situationships in between, the one-night stands, the everythings. One of the things that I've noticed is that Most of them say that finding men who make them feel that way in the bed, feel free and to be sexually, to be the hoe that they want to be, is fucking rare. So unless you think you're that rare exceptional man who brings that out of women naturally, and most of the women you sleep with are telling you that, man, yes, I feel so free around you. You let me unless you're that guy, that 1% guy in as far as the sexual realm of things, don't be counting on the fact that you're gonna find this woman who is, the hoe in the sheets and the lady in the streets, because chances are she don't exist for you. For who you are right now, she don't exist. The mere fact that you even care about that means that she don't exist for you, because you yourself are already oppressing her by even asking that question. Which brings me to the next fucking point. I think I had one here. The math is unrealistic. Oh, okay. All right, the math is unrealistic. That's my next point. It's sort of, building on that last point of it being illogical, the standard being illogical. The next natural progression or evolution from that is that the math is unrealistic. So I'm gonna start again by reading what I wrote. The math is unrealistic. Point number 4, the math is unrealistic. In today's society, women, and in brackets men, are becoming sexually active much younger than in generations past. I think we can all agree on that. Extremely younger, thanks to this very same technology that you're using to listen to me. Modern technology. Fucking porn is just kids are just fucking having free access to that shit from middle school. Everybody got a phone in their pocket. Porn literally is at their fingertips. Remember back in the days when we had to I remember being 10 or 11 years old, and my access to sexual content, me and my friends from my building, by friends I mean my 2 little brothers. I was 11. My 2 brothers who are younger than me, plus the neighborhood kids that we hung out with, all the same age. We found a fucking treasure trove, a garbage bag full of fucking Penthouse magazines in the fucking woods across the street from our apartment building. Yo, that shit was lit. I'm not even gonna lie, it was fucking crazy. Putting it into context, that's the 1980s. So the idea that, and for us, that was literally a life, that's a moment we will never forget for our entire lives. It was just mind blowing. But we're in 2025, and as I said, get back to my point. People are becoming sexually active way younger because they're exposed to sex in every way, shape, and form from a very young age. So, on the flip side of that, at the same time, people are choosing to settle down and get married much, much older, if they even choose to do that at all. I think we can all agree that the generations, I'm Generation X, for those who do not know, if it's not obvious by looking at me. Most of the generation, the millennials, Gen Z, I don't know how many generations behind us right now, but I know Gen Z's out there and millennials out there. Millennials already started moving towards this trend of getting married later or settling down later, but most certainly the Gen Z's, they're not fucking concerned about marrying, settling down the way Gen X and generations before us, baby boomers, our parents. The world was a very, very different place. Getting married and starting a family and all that, a lot of life success was dependent on that, the institution of marriage, on a personal level. But the world we live in today, with the modern technology and the sexual liberation of women, the impulse or the need to get married young in your early 20s is not there. These kids, they're fuck all of that noise, yo. I'm trying to do me for at least till I'm 30. They're busy. They want to live a life, have an adventure. They want to travel the world. They want to make a difference. They want to build companies. They want to do this. They want to do that. So the reality is people are settling down way later, in their 30s, before they even get married. So I'm gonna continue reading what I have here. So on a not so obviously related note, most people wouldn't consider a woman who only has sex 2 times a year with 2 different partners to be a slut or a hoe or a sexually promiscuous woman or a loose, as we used to say back in the super back in the days, by any stretch of the imagination. Like, realistically, any human being, man or woman, that has sex only 2 times a year, I don't give a fuck if it's 2 different people, but 2 times a year, even if it's to 2 people, no one would consider that person a highly sexually active person. Stick with me here. We're talking math. So we talked about people settling down later, getting exposed to sex and becoming sexually active sooner. Now, so even those super conservative numbers of only 2 people a year, okay? If a woman starts having sex at 18, which I'm also still being relatively conservative, because I know a lot of you out there, a lot of you kids, these kids out there, they're having sex long before 18. Anyways, if a woman starts having sex at 18 and doesn't get married until age 30, conservative, just, I think that's a reasonable thought based on my, previous points. She already will have a body count of 24 by the time she ties the knot at 30. Just let that sink in for a second. 24 by the time she ties the knot at age 30. Unfortunately, in my observation online, seeing this topic talked about, a lot of the men out there that are talking about this topic, especially the young ones, they have this warped idea that a number like 24 is actually a high body count for a woman. In fact, not just high, but a body count that is too high for them to accept in a woman that they're gonna get involved with to marry or be a life partner. Okay? 24 already, 24. I know when I say the numbers, some of you out there are already like, fuck, 24? Bruh, you want me to marry a fucking girl with 24 bodies on her? No, bro. Ladies and gentlemen, do the math. She already has 24 by the time she's 30. So in fact, to be brutally honest, some men would consider any some men, in fact, would consider any double-digit number body count, i.e. 10, as too much, from what I've observed, for a good woman to have. A woman that they are trying to consider as a life partner, 10 or, any double digit is already too much. But I digress. My point is, just based on the very, very small, minuscule example I gave you of only having sex twice a year from the time they're 18, they will already have 24 bodies by the time you're getting around to meeting them and talking to them about, And I feel like this is conservative, but it's still enough to prove my point. The idea of a man thinking that a woman with a high body count is not the type of woman that's worthy of their sorry, I can't even say it with a straight face. That a woman with a high body count is unworthy of them, their high and mighty, kingship male self, to put a ring on it and call them their queen. The very idea that you think that a high body count is an issue from that perspective mathematically is unrealistic, period. The mentality is totally out of touch with the reality of the things that I just said. Having sex younger, getting married, settling down way later. Okay? Just on that basic level. But that leads me to my next point, number 5. If that was happening in a vacuum where people are having sex younger and settling down later, and society itself around us from 1950 to now hasn't really changed in terms of its acceptance or proliferation and celebration and what's the other word I'm looking for? Using sex. There's another word for using sex, but I can't remember what the word is right now. If that was the case, that already would be a good argument. But my point number 5 is that society itself has already taken sex and made it almost like the new fucking like new god. Like, we already know sex sells. That's something that's been a universal truth since forever. And people have been saying that in advertising since at least as long as I've been alive, and I've been alive since 1974. Everybody knows sex sells. That's 50 years ago, basically, right? But society, so let me just state more simply. Point number 5. Casual sex, I can't multitask. Here we go. Casual sex and non-monogamy have become mainstream. That's my point number 5, okay? So when you add to the fact that the numbers already don't make sense, just on an individual level, that already doesn't make sense. When you add to that society has become a society that has made casual sex and non-monogamy mainstream, you could take those numbers that I just told you, and you actually almost more realistically can double and triple that number. Because the reality is, since the advent of dating apps and the extreme proliferation of porn, society has embraced casual sex as a normal thing. Now let me read how I put it in my notes. Let me read how I put it down. Casual sex and non-monogamy have become mainstream. From dating apps to porn and everything in between. It's almost to the point where so-called high-value men who are married in committed long-term relationships are being given a cultural pass to have a side piece or a mistress, as long as it's kept under wraps and not overtly in their partner's face. In fact, over the last 5 years, with increasing frequency, with my own 2 fucking eyes and ears, I have observed and heard multiple women communicate in various circumstances that men are gonna cheat anyway, so I'd rather be realistic and not expect true faithfulness. Not necessarily those exact words, but sentences and sentiments to that exact effect. It's sad and infuriating to me at the same time. I think that the way I wrote that is part of the issue, but I don't think that is all of the issue. I think I had other notes that kind of hit the nail more on the head regarding the mainstream proliferation of sex and casual sex. So yeah, they kind of tie in together. So like that, what I just said, along with the point 4 of, you know, people getting, you know, sexually active sooner. Those are results. Those are the compound results of the root cause of dating apps and hookup culture and all the things that I said. So dating apps, let's start there. Dating apps have created this generation now, basically, of people who do not feel as urgent about staying in a relationship. I'm not even talking about marriage here. I'm talking about just relationships. Like, because we can just swipe. It's like a fucking buffet. And trust me, I'm not preaching right here, because I've been in that 15 fucking years, on and off the fucking roller coaster. And even when it fucking sucks my soul dry and I get off for a minute, eventually you get back on the fucking ride. So anyways, my point is, even when you're on that ride, and our society and our culture develop this mindset that like, yo, I don't gotta fucking put up with this shit. This person looked at me wrong at the end of the date. Fuck her. I'm going on to the next. Let's go. Zoom, 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 zoom. Then you're on to the next one, and it feels good for a day or a week or whatever. And then you're like, fuck, man. I don't like the way she combs her hair on the weekend. Fuck. Yo, like, trust, bro, like, the excuses, the reasons why we move on. Of course, I'm being like, was it hyperbole? Of course, I'm being extra right now. You know, not literally that bad, but like the reasons people. There's no incentive for people to stick around. So it is creating an environment and a culture where now, you know, I think the dating app started around 2012 is when I think I got on there. No, I don't even think it was 2012. Because back 2012, I definitely know I was still online. I was doing online dating, which is, you know, the first step towards apps, but it still was not the same. It wasn't bad because it wasn't the immediacy of having this gamification. Tinder changed the whole fucking game with this swipe thing. And just so many people, everywhere you go, you can just swipe, and you're good to go. Anyways, my point. We're running out of time, so I don't want to belabor the point. So because of the culture, dating apps has created this culture where people are quick to jump from one person to the next. And hookups started to happen more frequently and more easily. And today, now 15, 20 years into the dating app game, you know, like hookup culture is a thing where people just accept it. The hookup culture eventually, you know, gave way to friends with benefits. Maybe the friends with benefits started before the apps really, but the dating apps was like adding fuel to the fucking fire, the little spark that was lit. The idea of friends with benefits. Back in the 90s, you would have booty calls. Shout out fucking Bill. Fucking what the fuck is his name? You know what I'm talking about. Fucking yo, I'm paused. I can't believe I'm not getting this. I'll pause. I gotta get it right. All right. Booty calls. Who started that? Google, my friend. See, modern technology is not all bad. I got a fucking computer in front of me and I can Google it. Booty call. The term booty call. Who started it? Fuck, it's Bill Bellamy. What the fuck is his name again? In the stand-up. All my Gen X fucking homeboys out there listening to this, they're fucking yelling into the mic, or yelling into their phone right now like, fuck, guy. All right, booty call. First started. I'm gonna edit some of this shit out because I don't know why it's taking me so long. I don't know why I'm insisting on going into this. Bro, this is ridiculous. Bill Bellamy, that's what I'm saying. Fuck. I already knew it was him. I just had to make sure because on a side note, I have noticed with myself, and as I've gone through this, I've been on a journey of self-discovery over the last year and a half, and I'm, you know, learning how to recognize my faults and be aware of my shortcomings. And one of those things is I do notice I have a tendency sometimes to say shit on record, even in the podcast or speaking to people casually, that I'm like 90% sure, and I'm 10% chance that I might be a little bit wrong, but I still say it like I'm fucking, like I'm, what do they have a saying, wrong and strong. I'll say it because I'm like, nah, man, that 10% can't be right. And then sometimes I go back, not all the time, but sometimes I go back and I'm like, oh shit, I was wrong. So anyways, Bill Bellamy invented the phrase booty call in the 90s, and go look it up. I was there when it happened. I watched the fucking stand-up when he did the fucking thing. So that's what they had in the 90s. And then it moved on to friends with benefits by the late 2000s. You heard this term, friends with benefits, and I've been in all of them. And then fucking swipe, Tinder, all of that shit turned into hookup culture, which is what we live in right now. And yeah, now the next level of that is non-monogamy. Because like I said, I done told you, they not trying to get locked down. They trying to live life and have their cake and eat it too. So the next thing now that we've been, you know, that this hookup culture and the swiping, all that has evolved into really, you know, pushing the culture around sex too, is non-monogamy. It's a fucking huge thing. That's why I said point number 5 was casual sex and non-monogamy have become mainstream. I didn't write this non-monogamy part down, but in terms of like, I didn't put a write-up on it, but I can tell you just off the cuff, ethically non-monogamous relationships or open relationships has slowly been really becoming a thing especially in the last 5 years. And I can remember 5 years ago when I would be on the dating apps and maybe 1 in like 1,000 might have that on there. I assure you today, real life experience, as recently as 2025, I've been on the dating apps looking for whatever reason. I'm not going to get into that. And easily 25%, 30% on the mainstream dating apps have E&M on there. They're like intimacy without commitment, or open relationship, or ethically non-monogamous relationship, or polyamory is the other word, is the other thing. And then again, on another side note, all those things I just mentioned, all for ethically non-monogamous. I'm gonna do a little education, because I've come across a lot of people in my day-to-day life who I've tried to explain it to them, because it's something that I've had personal experience with in the relationships that I've been in the last 5 years. There's lots of different kinds of ethical non-monogamy. That is the umbrella term. But when I say that to a lot of people, sometimes they get caught on that. They don't realize that there's so many different versions of that. So I'm just trying to break it down, let you guys know who don't know. When I say E&M, or ethically non-monogamous, that's just an umbrella term. But under the umbrella term, you have polyamory, you have open relationships, you have swinging, you have there's so many different types, yo. Like, I don't even want to go into it, and I can help you define what those different things are. But my whole point is that all of those things, various versions of ethical non-monogamy, are becoming mainstream. It used to be that I would have to go on an app that's specifically for people who are very sexually adventurous or are looking for an alternative type of relationship lifestyle to meet people like that. But now, 2025 January, I can tell you, on the mainstream apps, Tinder, Hinge, which a lot of people probably would not associate with that, Bumble, which is personally my favorite app, because I like women having to reach out to me first. Not because I can. I'm fucking good at that. Like, I love reaching. I'm good on the texting thing, on the messaging thing. I'm good. It's actually a good thing for me, because I can sell myself. Girls like to talk to me, and I like to talk. If you can't tell, I have the gift of gab, and I love words, and hell, I'm a writer, so of course. But Bumble, Tinder, Hinge, and I'm sure a lot of the other ones all have it. Like, and I'm swiping. I shouldn't even say 25, 30. It's probably more than that, to be honest. It's like, I don't. Let me put it to you this way. When I was earnestly looking, still earnestly looking to settle down and find someone to have like a long-term relationship partner and all that shit, some of those times when I was feeling demoralized in the last couple years being on the dating apps, and I'm swiping trying to find that person, some of the times when I got demoralized and I was like, fuck the apps, was because specifically, like, I was swiping and fucking everybody and their fucking mamas like E&M. I have polyamory. I don't want, and it was pissing me off. So that's just to say how much it's become mainstream. To all of my other points about the body count, we're running out of time. How many points do I have left? We're at number 5, and I said originally there were 7. The math is unreal. The standard is illogical. Real love doesn't care. That's 3 of them we've gone through. All right, so there's only 2 left. I don't know if we have time to get through the last 2, but it's my podcast, so why am I restricting myself to only an hour? I don't have to do an hour. I can do fucking 2 hours. So fuck that shit. Worst comes to worst, I'll split it up in 2. How about that? I'm gonna keep rolling, keep recording, get all these points done, and worst case scenario, I'll split the episode into part 1 and part 2. All right, so we got 5 points. The last 2, and I'll just summarize them before I talk on them deeply. Modern medicine makes it almost irrelevant to care what a woman's body count / sexual history is. And I'll elaborate on that in a second. And then last but not least, the religious reasons that which would be the one and only reason that I would give somewhat of a pass to a man who cares about a woman's body count. I wouldn't say give a pass, because it's not for me to give. I don't own them. Everyone has a right to their own religious and moral standards. But I'm saying, from a heathenistic, non-religious person's point of view, which I believe is a huge majority of the people's point of view out there, they're non-religious. But from that perspective, I'm saying the religious reasons are not reflective of the actual culture today. So I'll leave that for last, because that's the one that I've written the most information on. Like, I have a full couple paragraphs here on that. And we'll go back to the modern medicine. Some people like to use the argument of women having a high body count as a issue because of medical reasons. Those medical reasons vary, I guess, in intensity and in potency and in relevance to people, you know. So on a very basic level, like, women get fucking pregnant. Plain and simply. Like, the more a woman has sex, the more possibility that they can get pregnant is the argument. And of course, a woman doesn't want to get pregnant, who doesn't want to get pregnant, is not ready to get pregnant, is not in a relationship with someone to raise a child. That's a very sound argument not to have sex, abstinence. The same argument they give men, boys and girls, male and female, from the time they're in middle school. Because we don't want no unexpected 9-month surprises. Now, unless you've been living under a rock for the last 30, 40 years, obviously, there are ways to deal with, not unwanted pregnancy. There's ways to prevent many ways to prevent unwanted pregnancy. So we'll go into that. Another medical reason, you know what? Let me start by saying this. Let me just read my paragraph. It's very short. Modern medicine makes it almost irrelevant for anybody to care what a woman's high body count is from a medical standpoint. As I wrote here, modern medicine has almost erased all the medical concerns that used to be associated with a woman being as promiscuous as men. From unwanted pregnancy to the spread of STIs. Oh shit, my time is up in the fucking studio. I didn't realize that. I gotta wrap this up. From unwanted pregnancy to the spread of STIs and everything in between, both men and women have more than enough medical resources at their disposal to empower themselves to control, prevent, and manage any potentially harmful consequences of having a highly sexually active lifestyle. Therefore, in my humble opinion, non-professional, as a disclaimer, therefore, medically speaking, a woman having a high body count in today's society is basically nothing that warrants concern from a medical perspective. If she got her test, if she's clean, she already knows she's clean, she done told you, you got all the, there's no reason. It doesn't matter if she slept with one person or 1,000 person. All that matters is right now, today, from a medical perspective, she is good to go. That's it. I'm gonna leave it at that. Because I just realized I actually have to go. I actually have to work in the next little bit. I'm gonna just leave the religious argument to my paragraph, because I think it will probably say it better than I can freestyling anyways, and I took the time to write a whole paragraph, couple paragraphs, so I'm sure it's good. Religious reasons are not reflective of the actual culture today. Unless you are a devoted practitioner of a religion, faith, or faith that is against sex outside of marriage, then you have no religious or moral legs to stand on when judging females with a high body count. And before you self-describe religious men are quick to say, yeah, my judgment is justified by my faith, just pause for a minute and ask yourself, have I ever engaged in sexual relations outside of wedlock? I'm saying it like that very specifically because most religious reasons for that, most religions are against it, female promiscuity, just based on the fact that sex out of wedlock in itself is a no-no. So if you're going to use religion to count a woman out or to judge a woman with a high body count, to make it, just make sure you realize, as Jesus says, you know, he who's without sin cast the first stone. That's all I'm trying to say. So again, if you're religious, have you ever engaged in sexual relations outside of wedlock yourself? If you can truly answer that question with a no, then and only then would I say, have free reign, judge all you want, judge and the women you want to on a religious basis. However, I would humbly remind you that unless, even in that case, unless the woman you're choosing to judge is also living by the same or similar religious code as you, then your judgment for their sexual history actually becomes irrelevant. Because unless they prescribe to the same moral standard or religion that you have, then it's irrelevant. And to be honest, based on a lifetime of casual observation alone, I believe, even among those who actually consider themselves religious, there's a high percentage who are only casual observers who don't actually follow the teachings of the religion that they claim as their religion. Most people are not like strict to the letter religious to their religion. Most people, in fact, are very quick to pick and choose the parts of the religion that work for their life that they want to lead. On a cultural society level, even though our countries, Canada and US I'm talking, were founded on the Christian faith belief system, unfortunately, the current reality is that both countries have become extremely anti-religious in almost every way that matters to our day-to-day lives. Through separation of church and state, North America has slowly digressed into a society that is actually ruled by non-religious and, in a lot of cases, anti-religious institutions, ideologies, and systems. And ironically, sex itself has been embraced by mainstream pop culture to manipulate the masses in every sphere of influence, from arts and entertainment to physical products and services, marketing and advertising, social media, and countless other industries. I'm not saying it is good or bad, only that it is the fact that can't be ignored. So what I'm saying in a nutshell, after adding up all the points above, the religious argument for judging women with a high body count, it doesn't hold much water in modern society or culture. It doesn't hold much water in a modern society that we live in, a culture that we live in, that practically worships at the feet of the fucking sex gods in every other facet of life. Like we preaching, we giving people all the tools, we empowering women to be sexually promiscuous. We using them and rewarding them with being sexualized on social media and in advertising and in movies. We reward their careers. We tell them, be sexual in the music videos. They'll sell more records, and we do everything societally. And a lot of the people who are making those decisions are men, and we are telling them to be sexual in every way to get ahead in life, to actually be somebody and make something of themselves. But suddenly, when it's time to settle down and get married, we want to turn around and tell them, oh, but wait, you can't come here with your sexual self and your sexual history. You need to park that or lower your expectations, because you ain't good enough for us. You better just settle for Joe Blow down the road who has no self-esteem, or Ray Tay, bro. And I know that started out as the religious reason, but I'm going to use it as my segue to cap up the whole thing. I gave you 7 reasons. I'm not even going to recap them. Maybe I'll put it in the liner notes. I'll put the simple 7-point notes list on the show description. But in summary, what I'm saying is, both as a gender, men, we got to do better. But also as a culture and a society, because women, you too are not without sin. There are just as many women out there who are judging females who have a high body count as there are men, both in the context of sexual partnership, romantic partnership or life partnership, because there are same-sex couples out there. We're not ignorant to the fact lesbians exist. But even beyond that, a lot of the women who, let's just put it simply, a lot of the women who do have a high body count are women who have also in the sex industry, who are sex workers, who are, you know the list, strippers, maybe not strippers, some strippers have good high standard, but like, the porn stars, the OnlyFans girls, the, I don't know what other sort, escorts, so many sex work types of jobs or whatever. But my point is, women who consider themselves normal or morally, morally good, are judging the women who are in sex work as somehow morally bankrupt or morally less than. And there's another subject. Obviously, we're going to talk about the kids or the teenagers. If you are a parent and you have a daughter, you have young kids, daughters, I should say. There is another side to the topic. A lot of the OnlyFans girls, this is where the OnlyFans girls come in, who are sexualizing themselves and putting themselves out there, and that's another conversation in itself. So I'm not going to really, there's going to be an episode on that, don't worry. But on a general sense, we are judging women who choose sex work, and we are vehemently, some women are vehemently, passionately, telling their daughters that sex work is bad or that they shouldn't do it in any way, shape, or form, or ray-tay-tay. And understandably so, from a certain point of view, and not just from a certain point, even from my point of view, I would agree. There is a lot of negative, I don't want to use the word consequences, but there are negative things that come with going into sex work that you would want to save your female child from in the future. But I'm trying to say is, those negative things are not they should not be used as something to say that what going into sex work is a bad thing from a moral standpoint, is what I'm saying. Those negative consequences are not I look at them as things that every profession has negative consequences and negative things that you have to deal with. So I'm not judging it because the negative things exist. That doesn't mean that the thing in itself is bad or a bad choice. For some people, it actually is good. And I'll get into that in other episodes. But plain and simply, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that females with a high body count, if you're a man out there, please stop asking the fucking ladies what their fucking body count is. I'm gonna tell you straight up. If you are digging a woman and you actually are blessed and lucky enough to be vibing with a woman, and especially if you're in the context of you're trying to actually find a relationship. I won't even talk about marriage, just on a relationship, because people are do not fuck it up by asking her what her fucking body counts. If you even just want to get hooked up with a girl and you're dating and you're vibing, unless you're just playing around and you guys are actually vibing that well and you guys are just busting on each other and having fun and teasing each other, and you say, what's your fucking body count, and and you tease each other and blah blah, and it's all in good fun, that's good. But if you fucking serious, dead serious as a judge, and you're like, what's your fucking body count? That's the fucking, yes, I almost forgot. There's a point number 8. I'm gonna see if I can do this real quick. Point number 8, ego. That was the number one reason. A lot of, based on all the other points I just made, if all the other points I made are true, then the last point that only remains left, if you accept everything I just said as gospel truth and makes sense, then the only last layer left to you being able to free your mind and be with a woman with a high body count is this. From a man's perspective, ego. I can't believe I fucking forgot that. If I get kicked out of this studio before I finish making this point, I apologize, but I will come back. Maybe I might even add it on as a fucking, I'll just record it on my phone. I'll add it on as a bonus part, but I'm gonna try and get it done real quick. Ego. All the other reasons that you see people, men online, talking about why they would never marry or wife a woman with a high body count or even be in a serious relationship. Because of all the things that I just said, the only thing left, and the only reason why a man really is not about it from a visceral standpoint is their fucking ego. That's it. Fucking ego. Nobody wants to be that guy that's walking around with the shorty, the fucking hot shorty, that every other guy is looking and like, yeah, I fucked that girl. Yeah, I fucked that girl. Or, you know, like nobody wants to be with the fucking girl that's been passed around. That's kind of the simplified version of when I say ego. But that's why it is such an issue for men in every level of the issue of life. Doesn't matter if you're this quote unquote high value man that's a fucking celebrity or a fucking rock star or a fucking, you know, fucking businessman, you know, fucking Donald Trump level businessman. I used Donald Trump. That's a fucking triggering word in this fucking climate of culture we're in these days, but I couldn't think of anything on the fly. My head was just like, but like, all of it boils down to fucking dick swinging fucking ego for men. No one wants to be that man that has a woman that they're calling their wife or queen, that other men can say, yeah, I've been with that girl, yeah. And worse yet, if it's a lot of guys. In the context of one hood, I know it happens. There's that girl or, you know, those one or two girls that are known in the hood, in their respective hoods as like, yeah, that girl's a hoe. So let me break it down to you. Let me break it down to you why I think this argument is ridiculous. The whole ego thing. I'm gonna do my fellow homies, brothers, my men out there a favor. I'm gonna relieve you of that burden of your ego. The reality is, unless you are dating a celebrity or you yourself are a celebrity of any kind, or you are in this microcosm of a hood, as I said, and the woman that we're talking about in the scenario that you're considering dating that has a high body count happens to be that hood hoe, the ego bruising that you would get from people knowing that you're wifing this quote unquote hoe will never apply to you. Because the chances of you actually meeting or being in the same room with any number of her past bodies is so ridiculously infantile to almost non-existent. I can count on my one hand for my entire life of the many women I've dated, and I won't even go back to pre-marriage. I'll just stick to just the last 15 years of the many women I've dated with various body counts. I think I've met one guy out of all the many women that I've been fortunate enough to have relationship with of any kind, sexual relations with of any kind. One man from one woman's past. Just think about that. I can tell you for a certainty, wow, how vulnerable do I want to get, and how real do I want to get on this podcast? I've had more than my share. Fuck, I don't really want to say it like that, but I've had a lot of, I've had some fun times. Let's just say that. I've had some fun times, and I'm telling you, not only have I not asked any of them, I have asked, I think one for sure that was my best friend. Like, honestly, she was my fucking best friend, homie, lover, like everything. Like, shout out there, Ruby, you know who you are. Fuck yeah, we used to have those kind of good times. Yeah, we talked about it on a fun intellectual conversation type, and I asked her body count and vice versa. And coincidentally, she was the one person who I totally unrelated, unplanned, literally just ridiculous, random universe circumstance. I ran into one of the people who were her exes in real life. We never met outside of that context. The man to this day doesn't know that I actually know who he is, and I sat in a barber chair right next to him when he was cutting somebody else's hair. So just let that sink in for a second. I've only met the one man out of all these many women for all these years. And oh man, I don't know if I should say that. So let's just say that for another time, okay? But it kind of proves my point though. Okay. Oh fuck, should I say this? Okay, I'm gonna say this as respectfully as possible. Ruby, please don't crucify me. I'm using your code name / pet name that I've given you. So I hope this doesn't affect you in your life. But anyways, to add to this layer on this point, Ruby was the first and only woman I dated that actually was genuinely polyamorous, from before I met her, while I was with her, and still to this day that we're no longer together. So what I'm trying to say is, not only was it ridiculously crazy that I ran into this one person, that one of her body count, because it's just crazy that I wouldn't, period. But she's a high fucking body count woman just by definition of being polyamorous. At any given time, she's in multiple relationships. Going back to my educating my listeners, polyamory, that definition, that one division of ethical non-monogamy, polyamory, is not just swinging or hooking up and having sex with multiple people. It's actually being involved in full-fledged relationships with multiple people. And it's a subtle difference, but it's a huge difference. And we'll have that conversation another day. But my point is, my lovely Ruby has been in polyamorous since before I met her and to this day. So you would think someone who is polyamorous and has been living that certain lifestyle before I even met them, the chances of me meeting her body counts would be very high. And for those who do not, we live in the same city, the same greater metropolitan area of Canada. So maybe it might not be that far-fetched. But I've only met one, and it was so ridiculously random. And to put even more context to it, it only happened because we were so close with each other on every level and so free with each other that we did not only just talk about these things, but we showed each other's pictures of some of our exes and people that we've been with. So that was the only reason why that could have happened. Because apart from us having that deep relationship that allowed us to share that so openly, to this day, just like he doesn't know about, at least I don't think he knows about me. I don't know. But he certainly didn't make it known that he knew who I was when I was there. But I know who he was only because I had that context, that I actually knew what he looked like. I knew what he does for a living. I knew, I didn't know where he worked. I didn't know what barbershop he worked at, but I knew he was a barber and I knew what he looked like. And we live in the same city. And I don't even really go to the barber because, to be honest, I have so many homeboys that cut here. Shout out Rob Wayne, my boy Rob Clark. We got to do Comic-Con eventually one day because I'm still working on the next project. Don't worry, we're going to head back to Comic-Con Fan Expo 2026. I'm bringing the next project. But anyways, I digress. Yo, if you guys want some dope fucking art, dope fucking urban art, that fucking celebrities and 90s rappers period, Rob fucking Clark, that's my boy. You gotta check him out on Instagram. Yo, his art is fucking sick. Anyways, and he's also a dope barber. Maybe I should put his stuff on the fucking show notes. Rob Clark with a K or two B's, ROBB, Clark with a K, KLARKE. And you can Google him, Instagram, something like that. Instagram especially, because I know he could use the work. He does custom work if you want, but he does some mad celebrity shit, basketball players, fucking like, yo, you gotta check out his fucking work. You know his work is good because I'm fucking here, like, just the mention of his name causes me to go into a spiral. Like, his shit is good. All right, I've done my public service for my friends. But my point is, back to the point. Yeah, I don't even go to the fucking barber. Rob has been my main barber for the last 2 years, to be honest. More than 2 years, like since COVID hit. And he's not the only friend I have. Like, I have so many friends. Shout out Slim Reaper. Shout out whoever else. I can't even think on top of my head right now. But I have so many friends that cut here. So I don't even go. It's very rare that I walk into a barber shop. So the very idea that I walked into this random barbershop and it was this man's barbershop is fucking crazy. And the likelihood of that happen for most people in real life, that's not gonna happen. Because like I said, the context, I had this amazing connection, relationship with Ruby that allowed me to even know what the man looks like and what he does. So for me to connect all those dots when I even walked into that barbershop. Bringing it back, let's bring it home. We're pushing 90 minutes now. Bringing it back. So, for your ego, all my fellow men out there who are worried about being with a woman with a high body count because you don't want to look stupid, or you want to look like a cuckold, or like a punk, or like whatever you want, whatever your word you want to use. You're not gonna fucking see these people, bro. It's her fucking past. These people have moved on. Half of them don't even remember your woman or your girl that you're about to date or whatever. She don't even remember half of them probably. And unless her body count is like fucking 1,000, or unless she's a celebrity who everybody knows, or you are a celebrity who everybody knows, I don't know. Nobody gives a fuck about who the fuck you're dating and how many men that person has slept with. And you yourself are never gonna fucking see these people. They're not gonna see you. You're not gonna see them. Nobody's gonna give a. You are more. Everybody's too busy trying to fucking survive life, bro. Like, what the fuck? Body count. Who the fuck cares how much people you slept with? Do you think she cares how many women you slept with? I'm done. Done talk. All right, we gotta wrap this up. The format of the show is very formal. Like I said, I'm leveling up my game. I got a very formal structure to the show format that I'm gonna slowly introduce. But for this episode, I think I might not do that because it's already 90 minutes. And me doing that is gonna require me to add much more time to the episode for me to do all those other segments. So I'm gonna leave this episode raw as an introduction, and I'll let you know that episode 2 of For the Fucking Girls podcast is gonna be why I'm for the fucking girls. I'm gonna take episode 2 to break down the transition from I'm for the girls to for the fucking girls, and exactly why I made the transition, what the mission is, which hasn't changed. The mission hasn't changed, just the methods have changed. So I'm gonna break down why the methods have changed, the rebranding, planning of how we're going to execute things. And most importantly, for those of you who are brand new, I'm going to break down what the actual cause is, what For Her Entertainment is all about, which is my umbrella company or brand that I'm trying to build. And then the For the Fucking Girls project, because really For the Fucking Girls podcast is part of a 4-dimensional project that's going to hit you from 4 different arts and entertainment avenues to, as I said, to hopefully generate awareness and financial support for women in domestic violence situations, in women's shelters, etc. That's part of it. And then also to empower and celebrate and support sex workers and female sex workers specifically, and just changing the narrative and the culture around changing society's views on those, women and promiscuous women, so quote unquote promiscuous women. So I'm gonna break all that shit down on episode 2 for the Fucking Girls podcast. So stick around. Hope you guys will come back. Hope you enjoy this. And for sure, please put comments. Send me fucking comments, emails, whatever. I want to hear what people have to say. I'm recording video of this episode for the first time in my life. I'm recording the video of the podcast. So I want to hear what you out there have to say. I'm looking at the camera. I'm gonna post any parts of this conversation that I find interesting on Instagram, TikTok. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Comment, like, subscribe, share. I want to hear the conversation. I'm intrigued to hear what the world has to say about what I think and what I had to say about this topic. And this is just the beginning. Thanks for listening. Greetings and gratitude is how I would usually start. I have an official sign off too. And I fucking forgot about that. All right, I'll bring that on the next episode. I have official For the Fucking Girls podcast sign off too as well. But for now, I'm just going to say, my name is Henry Lyon, and this was For the Fucking Girls. Peace.